I still remember the sound more than the words. The low, careless hum of his voice, the scrape of his fork against the plate, the television murmuring in the background. And then, like someone dropping a match into a puddle of gasoline, he said it. "That fat woman disgusts me." Marcus didn't even look at me when he said it. He was looking at the morning show on TV, where a woman in a bright yellow dress was talking about self-love and community. She was radiant. Full cheeks, soft arms, eyes that had seen storms and decided to build gardens anyway. And he said it like it was nothing. I was standing a few feet away holding a cup of coffee I hadn't even sipped yet. Steam curled upward, lazy and slow, as his words curled inside me, sharp and fast. My first reaction wasn't rage. It was stillness. A sudden, involuntary stillness, like the body freezes so the heart can catch up. I stared at the TV. I acted like I hadn't heard him, but the truth? That sentence burrowed under my skin like a splinter that didn't want to come out. I rinsed my cup in the sink. He didn't notice. Or maybe he did and decided not to care. Either way, the silence between us stretched thin. He went on eating, flipping channels. I went on pretending, but something inside me shifted. You know that moment when a thread snaps on a favorite dress? Nobody else hears it, but you do. You know it won't fit the same again. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The dark felt heavy. My mind replayed his words over and over until they echoed like a cruel refrain. I'd spent 8 years with Marcus. 8 years of shared dinners, road trips, inside jokes, birthdays. But now, all of it was sitting next to that one sentence. I didn't cry. Not then. I just whispered into the dark, "I heard you." The next morning I woke up earlier than usual. Something in me felt different, not louder. Not louder, just firmer, like the first stone laid when building a house. I slipped on a black dress I hadn't worn in months, the kind that hugged me where I used to hide. I wrapped my hair in a turmeric scarf, let the fabric kiss my neck like sunlight. I penciled my eyebrows slowly, carefully, the way my auntie taught me. "Girl, treat your face like a blessing, not a battlefield." When I stepped out of the bathroom, Marcus blinked. "You going somewhere?" "Yes," I said. "Where?" "Forward." He laughed, confused. I didn't. I walked into the kitchen, made myself breakfast, and didn't ask if he wanted any. Normally, I'd fry his eggs, butter his toast, set everything neatly on a plate. But today, the plate I made was mine alone. "You good?" he asked, halfway through his cereal. "Wonderful," I replied with a calmness that startled even me. After breakfast, I grabbed my laptop and left the house. I didn't slam the door. Power doesn't always need noise. I walked to the little cafe a few blocks down. The one with the bent fern in the window and mismatched chairs that always creak like old church pews. The barista, a girl with freckles and pink nails, greeted me with decaf today, like always. I smiled. Not today. Full strength. I sat in the corner, opened a blank document, and typed the words, Black Women Wellness Collective. For years, I'd been running informal Saturday workshops at church, helping girls and women talk about body trust, self-love, hair, food, boundaries. It was my quiet joy, but I'd never dared to make it official. To say, this matters. That morning, I built a website, a newsletter sign-up, a mission statement. I wrote every word like a love letter to the version of myself who spent years shrinking to fit someone else's comfort. We are not decorations, I typed. We are declarations. Around lunch, a young woman sat beside me. She had deep brown skin, dark lipstick, and the kind of nervous hands that kept twisting the strap of her purse. "I'm sorry," she said. "I don't mean to stare. You just look like you figured something out." I laughed softly. "I'm in the middle of it." "Middle counts," she smiled. "I'm Joy." Of course she was. We talked for a while, nothing profound, just life. But something about that conversation rooted me. I realized my energy was shifting outward, away from Marcus, toward something alive, My phone buzzed with messages from him. Marcus, where are you? Marcus, are you mad about something? Marcus, dinner tonight? I turned the phone face down. For the first time in years, I didn't rush to explain myself. I didn't twist my feelings into palatable shapes. When I got home that evening, Marcus muted the TV as soon as I walked in. We need to talk, he said. We do, I replied, hanging my coat. He looked nervous. I feel like you're mad. Mad is small, I said. I'm redrawing a map. His eyebrows knit together. A map of what? Where my dignity lives. He gave that uncomfortable laugh he always gave when he didn't know what to say. This about yesterday? I tilted my head. Which part? He shifted on the couch. The comment. About the TV. I was joking. You meant it, I said simply. You said it like the truth and waited for the room to agree with you. His face flushed. I wasn't talking about you. Good, I said evenly. Then that disgust you feel about that fat woman exists somewhere else. Not here, he blinked. It was a show, Layla, okay. Silence stretched between us again, thicker this time. In that silence, I heard every diet he encouraged with fake enthusiasm. Every time he told me, I love you, but I just want you to be healthy, as if my body was a project, not a home. Every birthday where his gift was a gym membership wrapped in ribbon. Every picture where he angled me just right to make me smaller. He tried again. Layla, I love you. I hear what you're saying, I answered. I'm asking if you respect me. He looked hurt. Of course I do. Then say, I was wrong. Say, I'm sorry. Say, I will unlearn what taught me to see my wife as a project. He stared at me, mouth opening and closing. You want me to grovel? I want you to tell the truth. But he didn't. He launched into a speech about people being too sensitive and words not meaning anything anymore. I didn't interrupt. I didn't argue. I just listened. Not like a wife, but like a witness. That night, I called my auntie, told her what he said. She sighed, long and deep. Baby, one man's disgust is another man's worship. But more importantly, your own. Her words held me like a quilt. Over the next week, I didn't announce anything. I just moved differently, Marcus noticed. He'd reach for me on the couch. I'd gently pull away. He'd suggest a movie. I'd be working on the collective. He'd talk about dinner plans. I'd talk about website hosting. You're distant, he finally said. I'm present, I replied, just not centered on you anymore. I started spending more time with Joy. Turned out she was a graphic designer. She helped me create a logo, a black woman's silhouette with roots blooming out of her hair like a tree. We worked late into the evenings, laughing, sipping tea, playing Nina Simone in the background. At night, lying in bed next to Marcus, I could feel his confusion radiating like heat. He didn't understand what was happening because, in his mind, nothing big had happened. It was just a sentence. Just a moment. But to me, it was a mirror held up to 8 years of small cuts. The following Sunday, we went to a potluck after church. Marcus came reluctantly. He always did. He brought a store-bought pie and acted like he made it. I let him. Women at church noticed me. Really noticed. Girl, you glowing, one of them said, adjusting her hat. I smiled. Peace looks good on me, huh? Marcus hovered like a shadow. He tried to put his hand on my waist, an old habit. I gently stepped away. Later, he stood outside in the churchyard, arms crossed, jaw tight. Everybody's looking at me like I'm the villain, he said. They're looking at you like a man who owes his wife an apology, I said. He stared at the grass. You know I didn't mean you. You keep saying that, I replied softly. What if I tell you I don't heal that way? He looked lost. What do you want me to do? Say, I was wrong. Say, I'm sorry. Say, I will learn. And then this all magically goes away, he said, bitterness creeping in. No, I said. Then we start the work, but there is no work without a door. And the door is humility. He didn't walk through it. That night, I packed a bag. Not to leave forever, but to breathe. I went to my cousin Tiana's place. She made peppermint tea and offered silence, the good kind. "You sure?" she asked. "I'm sure of me," I said, for the first time in a long time. The next morning, Marcus bombarded my phone with messages. "You're overreacting. Come home. We can talk this out." It was just a comment. I turned my notifications off. I opened my laptop, staring at the logo Joy made. The collective's waiting list had grown overnight. 50 names. Women who wanted a space where they weren't problems to be solved. I thought of the woman on the TV. The one in yellow. I wondered how many men had said sentences like that about her. I wondered if she ever heard them. And then I thought, maybe she did. And maybe she built anyway. I took a deep breath. I wasn't done, not by a long shot. Tiana kept a spare toothbrush in a mason jar under the sink and a blanket that smelled faintly of lavender. Her apartment was small, bright, and kind to people who needed to cry without explaining it. We didn't talk much the first night, just sat on the couch, feet tucked under us, watching some cooking show where people cried over cakes. I didn't cry. I watched the contestants pipe frosting like they were writing apologies in cursive. "Stay as long as you need," Tiana said finally, hand on my knee, steady and warm. "I don't know what need looks like yet," I admitted. "That's the good part," she said. "You get to invent it." In the morning I woke to sunlight gathered on the rug like a soft congregation. I made coffee and opened my laptop. The collective's waiting list had jumped again, like word of mouth moved faster than my fear. I started sketching 6-week arcs, building out the lesson plans I'd outlined. Food and shame, body and boundaries, hair as heritage, saying no. I added a week I hadn't planned on, repair and release, because I realized we needed both. The flyers designed themselves in my mind, a silhouette crowned with roots, a tagline that read, "You are not a problem to be solved." By noon, Joy pinged, "Do you want typography options?" Thinking something soft but not apologetic. Soft but not apologetic felt like a prayer. I texted back, "Show me 3, bold the one you love." She sent 4. I picked the 3rd. She laughed in all caps and confessed it was her favorite too. That afternoon, my phone lit up with Marcus's name again. I stared at it until the ring died. He texted, "We need to talk, come home." Then, "I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings," the "if" burned. I typed, erased, then typed again. "We can talk after you say the sentence without the if. And after you schedule therapy for yourself. I'll consider meeting after the first 2 sessions." Not before. He didn't respond for a while. Then, therapy is a hustle. But fine. I'll look. I closed my eyes. It wasn't the words I wanted, but it was somewhere to stand. In the days that followed, I moved like a person reaching for a higher shelf, stretching parts of myself that had gone stiff, waking muscles that had fallen asleep. I held interest calls on Zoom for the collective. Women joined from kitchens, cars, office corners, bedrooms with unmade beds and glowy lamps. They came with old aches wrapped in new language. Some were 19 and raw, some 68 and unbothered, but still tender in places, some right in the middle, juggling toddlers and trauma and deadlines and faith. I didn't heal them. I made a room where they could put their heavy things down without someone asking them to apologize for the weight. During one call, a woman named Bernice, 71, in a purple cardigan and pearls, lifted her chin and said, "I have spent 40 years shrinking in the mirror before I step out my door. I'm tired. I want to arrive unshrunken." The chat filled with hearts and hallelujahs. Another woman, Aisha, 22, whispered, "I cut my hair last week. Not because I hate it, because I wanted to see my face without bargaining with it." She grinned, shy and bright. I felt something click into place inside me, like a latch finding its home. On the 3rd day at Tiana's, Marcus texted a screenshot, an appointment confirmation with a therapist. The name made me sit up. Dr. Hawthorne, she, her. Black woman. Credentials long as a grocery list. He added, "First session Friday, Zoom." I wrote back, "Good. After 2, we can have coffee in public." Daylight, neutral ground. He replied with a thumbs up, then a second bubble. "Do you still want this marriage?" The question thudded. I typed, stalled, erased. Then, "I want a life that respects me. If our marriage can fit inside that, we'll see." That night, I dreamt of a house with rooms opening into other rooms, and each door had my name carved into the wood. I woke with tears drying at the edge of my hairline. Not sad tears, just release. Joy came over Saturday with bagels and mock-ups. We pushed the coffee table aside and sat cross-legged on the rug, surrounded by sketches and swatches like kids with crayons. "What color is permission?" she asked, brow furrowed, pencil hovering. "Green," I said. "Not new leaf green, old tree green." She nodded, satisfied. "And the vibe is not fix yourself, it's join yourself." "Exactly," I said, delighted by how her mouth curved around the idea like it was a fruit. At noon, my auntie rang. Her voice always arrived carrying cornbread. "You all right, baby?" "I'm more all right than I've been." "Good," she said. "I've been praying you the kind of all right that don't need anyone else to shrink for it." I told her about the collective and the first cohort starting in 2 weeks. She hummed, pleased. "Your grandmother would be proud. She believed in sanctuaries you could carry in your pocket." "Pocket sanctuaries," I repeated, smiling. "Yes." Before we hung up, she asked gently, "And Marcus? He found a therapist." That's a beginning." "Just remember, a man with a map can still choose a ditch. Watch his feet, not his mouth." "I will," I said, writing it down because wisdom feels more official once ink touches paper. The first therapy day, the apartment felt too quiet. I cleaned a dish already clean. I watered a plant that didn't need it. I paced. Then I pulled out my journal and wrote the sentence I'd asked for. "I was wrong. I am sorry. I will unlearn." I let the words sit naked on the page. They were so simple, so small in ink, and still they changed the air. He called after, voice thinner than usual. "It was a lot," he said. "How so?" She asked about my father. About jokes in locker rooms. About why I used the word disgusts to cover up shame. He swallowed. "I didn't like it. But I think I needed it." "Okay," I said, keeping my voice level. "I wasn't a judge. I was a weather report, noting conditions, watching for patterns." "I'll go again Tuesday," he said. "Good." He hesitated. "Do you miss me?" I let the silence hold the complexity. "I miss ease," I said. "I am not sure that was you." After I hung up, I sat on the floor and breathed until the room widened. Then I logged into the interest call and met a woman who would change something for me. Her name was Odessa. Mid-50s, cheekbones like truth. She sat in a sunlit room with a quilt behind her that must have held 1,000 stories. "I joined because my granddaughter is 12, she said. I've been careful with my words around her, but I realize I've been cruel with my words around me. She touched her own shoulder, tender. "I want to be a better ancestor in advance." The chat lit up with yes and my God and teach us. I thought of the lineage inside us that carries both harm and healing like twin seeds. I thought of being a better ancestor for my future self. I pressed my palm flat to the rug and whispered, "Amen." By the time the cohort started, we had 62 women in the first wave and a wait list that scared my bank account into smiling. I rented a small studio space for Saturday sessions, white walls, big windows, mirrors along one side that I immediately framed with vinyl letters. Joy came with a ladder and a level. Together we spelled the words that would greet every woman who walked in: "You are not a problem to be solved." The morning of week 1, the room was an orchestra warming up. Laughter, nervous chatter, the soft shush of feet finding places. We circled shabby chic chairs, set out tea, lit a candle that smelled like oranges. I binged the chairs one more time. My auntie always said a circle makes a promise, and then we began. "I'm Layla," I said. "I'm not a guru. I'm a witness. And this is a room for putting heavy things down." We took turns. Olivia went first, 29, new mama, eyes rimmed red from night feeds. "I'm here because my doctor called me non-compliant when I wouldn't go on a fad diet while breastfeeding," she said. Her hand shook. The room held her. Bernice lifted her pearls and said, "You are compliant with your sanity, baby." We laughed, then exhaled, and in the exhale was church. Another woman, Key, 40, with perfect braids and a perfectly concealed rage, says, "I teach my daughters to respect their bodies, but I talk to mine like it owes me rent." She pressed her lips together, ashamed. I shook my head, slow. "We don't shame the strategies that kept us alive," I said. "We bless them, then trade them for better ones." Halfway through, I noticed a woman sitting outside the circle, back against the wall, eyes wet. I went to her quietly. "You want to sit in a chair?" I asked. "I don't want to be seen," she whispered. "That's okay," I said. "Can I bring the circle to you?" Her eyes widened, surprised, then relieved. I pulled a chair to her side. Then another woman pulled hers. Soon the entire circle had rotated, making room for this corner without any grand announcement. The room adjusted around her like a hug. She cried then, hard, and smiled through it like maybe she'd found her first pocket sanctuary. Week 2 was boundaries. We'd practice saying no out loud, the word getting caught in throats like a bone, and then sliding down easier and easier each time. "No, I can't make the extra tray of macaroni for the reunion. No, you can't talk about my body at the table. No, I won't apologize for eating in public." We wrote our no's on index cards and placed them face up in a pile to be touched like blessing stones by anybody who needed their strength. Between sessions, life continued its habit of demanding receipts. Marcus sent a picture from the therapist's lobby, faded carpet, a potted plant attempting optimism. Session 2 done. "How do you feel?" I asked. "Like I found a bruise I kept calling a muscle," he wrote. "I say things I don't hear until they echo back at me." "It's ugly. Ugly is not the enemy," I replied. "Hidden is the enemy. Keep going." He asked if we could meet. I said yes, after Sunday service, at the cafe with the bent fern. Daylight. Public. Public. Safe. He arrived in a muted jacket, the kind he bought when he wanted to look serious. He looked small inside it, like a boy playing grown man. He held his coffee with both hands. "I'm embarrassed," he said without preamble. "I am 40 and I have never learned to sit with my own shame without flinging it." "That sentence is a threshold," I said. "Thank you for walking through." He blew out a breath. "I'm sorry, Layla." I was wrong. The words weren't elaborate, they weren't romantic, but they were the ones I'd asked for, unwrapped and plain. I nodded. "I want to learn," he added. "I want to be someone you don't have to guard yourself against." "That would take time," I said. "And consistency, and it may not change my choice." "I need you to be okay with repair as a practice, not a promise." He swallowed. "I'll try." We walked afterward, slowly, as if sidewalk cracks could trip us. We both laughed when a dog in a sweater yodeled at a pigeon. It was ridiculous. It was gentle. It reminded me that gentle is not the absence of truth. It's the way truth arrives and makes space. 2 weeks later came the backyard party. Paper lanterns strung from an oak, kids weaving through legs like minnows, a grill coaxing smoke into the sky. Joy was there in wide-leg pants that swished and a tee that said, "No is a complete sentence." The music was happy and a little too loud. I wore a dress with sunflowers. I felt like myself without auditioning for it. A woman walked by in a dress that refused gravity and permission slips. She was gorgeous. Thick, hair big and honest. She laughed with her whole throat. Some men by the grill did that thing. Eyes sliding, mouths curving with that mean little humor, men passed between each other like gum. One of them said something I couldn't hear but could feel, that old, familiar wrongness, and a dozen women in 100 backyards would recognize it too. I watched Marcus at the cooler. He heard it. I saw the moment land on his face, and then I saw him make a choice. He set down his drink, walked over to the grill, hands open, shoulders loose, voice low. Not a performance. Conversation. I couldn't hear every word, but I heard enough. "We can't talk about her like that," he said, steady. "We're not in middle school." "We're grown." The men bristled. He didn't square up, he stayed soft, which is harder. "That kind of talk taught me to see my wife like a project," he added. "I'm unlearning." "Come with me, or at least stop." They stared at him. Then one of them, the oldest, beer can tilted like a crown, nodded once, gruff. "I ate," he said. The younger ones looked at the ground. It wasn't a revival. It was a small shift, the kind that changes weather over time. When Marcus came back, cheeks pink at the edges, I said, "How'd that feel?" "Like using a muscle I don't own yet," he replied. "Shaky." "Good." I didn't pat him. I didn't parade him around for cookies. I just said, "Keep going." Later, we danced. Not like a couple trying to prove something. Like two people who know the same song. The moon climbed over the oak and got caught in the leaves like jewelry. For a moment, I grieved what we'd never been, even at our best. Then I blessed what we were, two humans trying not to make each other smaller. The next week in the collective, we worked on hair as heritage. We set up chairs and pairs and taught each other to detangle with tenderness. The room smelled like cocoa butter and eucalyptus, and the air was braided with stories. Bernice told us about the first time she let her hair go gray and how a stranger at the pharmacy thanked her for it. Asha showed us her buzz cut and said she felt like a new moon, dark, honest, full of potential. A mother named Sade brushed her daughter's curls while we talked, and the girl fell asleep in the chair, safe in a way that made my throat ache. Between sections, I sat on the floor, back against the mirror, watching joy spread without asking permission. Odessa caught my eye from across the room. She tapped her heart and then pointed at me. I tapped back. We smiled. Sometimes language gets in the way of what hands already know how to say. Marcus and I started a weekly coffee. Same cafe. Same table near the bent fern that survived on spite and fluorescent light. We didn't call them dates, they were check-ins. He told me about therapy homework, naming the moments he'd used humor to hide contempt, confessing them out loud to himself until they stung less and taught more. I told him about the collective, about the bell joy hung by the door that we rang when someone reclaimed a piece of themselves. He laughed when I told him we rang it for index card no's. "That's church," he said, and he was right. A month in, he asked, "Would you consider moving back home? We could keep the boundaries." We could, rebuild. I let the question breathe. The old me would have rushed to answer to soften the moment. The me I was becoming set the question on the table and looked at it from different angles. "Not yet," I said finally. "Maybe not at all. I'm learning what I am like in my own space." "I like her." He nodded, pained but honest. "Okay." He didn't always get it right. One day, he sent me a screenshot of a fitness influencer with a caption, "This kind of discipline is inspiring." My heart tripped. Old trigger. Old sore spot. I typed, "What about her inspires you? And please be mindful with sharing bodies like before and after billboards." He apologized. Fast. "You're right. I was using her as a mirror." Deleted. "Thank you." I exhaled. It wasn't perfect progress. It was human. Then the documentary call came. A local journalist who followed a mutual friend had seen our flyers, our posts, our messy little room with the vinyl letters, and asked if she could feature the collective in a short piece on community healing. I said yes before fear could monologue. Joy squealed. Tiana danced in my kitchen. Bernice bought a new cardigan. Odessa sent a text, I'll bring my quilt. Every square is a woman who said yes to herself after a long no. We filmed in the studio on a Wednesday afternoon. The crew was small but competent, their cameras respectful. The reporter asked me to tell the story of the sentence that split my life into before and after. I told it plain. I didn't cry. I didn't put sugar on it. I looked into the lens like I was talking to a woman in a different city who needed to hear it without decoration. "What did you do the next day?" the reporter asked. "I stopped pretending," I said. And I started a room where other women could do the same. When the crew left, the room felt like a womb, quiet, potent. I sat on the floor, pressed my back to the mirror, and whispered, "Thank you to whoever in the sky keeps track of small obediences that become big lives." On Friday, Marcus texted that he'd watched a webinar by a Black feminist therapist on fat phobia and masculinity. "I took notes," he wrote. He sent a photo of a page covered in his tight handwriting. "Humility is an action. Repair is a practice. Disgust is often displaced shame." I stared at the words until they blurred. Then I typed, "Keep going." That weekend, my mother came to visit. She stood in the doorway of the studio, hand over her mouth, eyes shining. "Look at you," she said, hugging me so hard my ribs complained. "Look at what you made out of a sentence that tried to break you." "We made it," I said, gesturing at the chairs, the women filing in, the bell on the wall, the vinyl along the mirror catching afternoon light. "All of us together." She nodded, took a seat, and when we started our opening breaths, her voice joined the others like a thread joins a tapestry. Small, necessary, strong. After class, over soup at the cafe, she asked about Marcus. I told her the truth without weaponizing it. She listened, spoon pausing in midair. "Do you still love him?" she asked. "I love who he is trying to become," I said. "I don't know if I want to be married to the man he was, or even the man he will be. I want to be married to myself first." Mama smiled. "Then you already know the next right step. Every right step after that will introduce itself if you keep listening." On my way home, the sky performed, pink bruised to gold, clouds dragging their gowns across the edge of the city. I walked slower. When my phone vibrated, I almost didn't check. I did. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "Saw your mini interview clip on the station's Instagram." Crying in my car. "Thank you for saying the word door, no signature." Just that. I stopped on the sidewalk and put my hand on my chest. The world tilted, but in the way a swing tilts, back and forth, letting you remember joy without paying for it with penance. That night, I slept. Really slept. Really slept. Not the shallow, watchful sleep of the past year, but the sleep you fall into when you are no longer trying to carry both the story and the blame. Morning arrived easy. I made coffee in the mug Tiana said I was keeping far beyond its lifespan and stared at the steam like it knew something. Marcus messaged around noon. The men's group at church asked me to speak next month about accountability. Should I say yes? Or is that performative? I thought about it, then wrote, "Say yes if you're willing to talk about what you've done, not just what you've learned. Say yes if you're okay failing out loud in front of them. Say yes if you won't use it to ask me for credit." He sent a one-word reply, "Yes." Part 2 ends with the calm before a choice, the collective growing into its fuller shape, the documentary about to air, Marcus stepping onto a small stage that could turn him into a better man or a better actor. And me, standing at a door that is mine alone, hand on the knob, listening for what my life says next when I stop whispering to it like I'm asking permission. When the documentary aired, I didn't sit with anyone. Not Tiana. Not Joy. Not even my mother. I sat alone in my apartment, barefoot, mug in hand, lights off except for the soft glow of the TV. My heart was steady, not racing, not anxious. Just aware, like something inside me understood the gravity of what was about to happen. The opening shots showed the studio, the vinyl lettering on the mirror, the women in their chairs, the circle alive with laughter and truth. Then the camera cut to me, sitting on the floor, back against the mirror, telling the story of the morning Marcus said it. That fat woman disgusts me. They didn't add dramatic music. They didn't cut away. They let the words hang in the quiet. When he said it, I told the camera, I acted like I didn't hear. But the next day, I stopped pretending. I watched myself on the screen and felt separate, not detached, just observing the version of me who chose a door she hadn't even known existed. Midway through, the camera lingered on the women ringing the bell one by one, tentative at first, then bolder, like each clang stitched a piece of the world back together. Bernice wiping her tears in pearls. Asha showing off her new buzz cut, Odessa tapping her heart. Joy's smile wide as a sunrise. Then came the line that made my phone explode later. Revenge, I said to the camera, wasn't destroying him. It was rescuing me. The documentary ended with the words on the mirror filling the screen. You are not a problem to be solved. Silence sat with me after the credits rolled. A good silence. The kind that follows a truth fully spoken. Then my phone started buzzing like a hive. Messages. Comments. DMs from strangers. A voice note from Auntie shouting hallelujah. A crying emoji from Tiana. Joy texting, we did that, Disio. And then a simple message from Marcus I watched. Thank you for not rewriting the story to make me a hero. Thank you for telling the truth. I stared at it for a long moment before replying, truth is the only language that builds anything worth living in. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood at the pulpit of the churchmen's group. I wasn't there, but I heard about it. Apparently, he stood with his hands trembling but voice steady and said, I used to talk about women like they were billboards. I used to laugh when I should have listened. I hurt the person I loved the most, not with a scream, but with a sentence. I said, that fat woman disgusts me. And I meant it. That's the ugliest part. I meant it because I was taught to. And then I decided to stop being a student of that lesson. He didn't make it about me. He made it about the mirror he'd avoided his whole life. The men didn't clap. They didn't boo. They listened. Some shifted uncomfortably. Some nodded. A few, later, quietly signed up for the therapist's number he left on the table in the lobby. When he told me about it over coffee, I watched his face. He wasn't performing. He was shaking in the way someone does when their insides have been rearranged and they're still learning to stand. I thought I was going to faint, he admitted. You didn't, I said. No, he whispered. I didn't. The weeks turned into months. The collective grew. Asha started volunteering, helping younger girls with hair care. Bernice began leading the No is a Complete Sentence workshop. Joy curated a gallery night showcasing body-positive art from women in the group. Odessa brought her granddaughter to week 6 and they rang the bell together. The little girl's laugh bounced off the mirrors like music. I watched all of it with a quiet kind of awe. This thing that had started in the shadow of a sentence was now a room full of light. Marcus kept showing up too. Not in the collective, it wasn't his space, but in his own work. Therapy weekly. Men's group monthly, honest conversations often. He'd text me articles about dismantling internalized biases. He'd catch himself mid-sentence and say, wait, that was me defaulting to old language, and then correct it. Not for applause, for practice. He asked me out to dinner one Friday, not as a couple. As two people who'd built something separately and wanted to see if anything remained between the ruins worth planting in. I wore a green dress. Old tree green, hair wrapped high. Lip gloss catching the light like a whisper. He wore a navy jacket I'd picked years ago and never liked until that night. The restaurant was warm and low-lit, humming with conversation. We ordered wine. He reached for the menu like a man who'd decided to take his time reading. This feels like a first date, he said nervously. It kind of is, I smiled. Halfway through the meal, between the roasted chicken and the chocolate tart, he said, Layla, I want to ask you something, but not from the man I was. From the man I'm becoming. I set my fork down. Go on. Do you think, he swallowed, we could try again? Not start over because that would erase too much, but build from here? Honestly, if that's something you want to? The restaurant disappeared for a second. Just him. Me. The hum of time between us. I don't know, I answered honestly. But I'm open to seeing. He smiled, not triumphant, just grateful. Then let's see. And we did. Slowly, carefully. Like people patching a quilt with hands that finally understood fabric. I didn't move back in right away. We started with dinners, walks, therapy sessions together once a month. We built rituals where there had only been routines. Every Sunday we lit a candle and said out loud one thing we'd unlearned that week. Some were big. I unlearned centering my discomfort in conversations about bodies. Some were small. I unlearned interrupting when you talk about the collective because I feel insecure. We laughed more. Not the brittle kind that covers cracks, the real kind. One night, months later, I stayed over. We sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets, the city quiet around us. He turned to me, voice low. I used to think love was about finding someone who fit the story in my head, he said. But real love, it's rewriting the story together, out loud, in the open, where both of us can see the edits. I nodded. And being brave enough to let the old chapters go. He took my hand. Not like possession, like partnership. Eventually, I moved back in. Not into the same house. Into the house we made new, furniture rearranged. Mirror lettering from the studio printed on the hallway wall. You are not a problem to be solved. We hung new pictures. Left blank spaces for what would come. The collective kept growing. We opened a second location in another neighborhood. Joy took on a leadership role. Odessa started hosting intergenerational story nights. Bernice made everyone matching t-shirts that said, "Softness is power." Marcus showed up to volunteer at events, quietly setting up chairs, making coffee, passing out flyers. He didn't center himself. He stood alongside. One evening, after a session, I watched him talk to Asha and two of the younger women. They were laughing, not at him, with him, and I thought, this is what change looks like. Not fireworks, not speeches, just small, steady bricks laid one after another until a bridge exists where there was once only distance. A few months later, at the collective's one-year anniversary celebration, we stood in the studio surrounded by women of every shade and age, hair wrapped and free, laughter bouncing off the walls. Marcus squeezed my hand gently and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on truth." "Thank you for walking through the door," I whispered back. I rang the bell that night. Not for a personal breakthrough, for ours. If you've ever believed that healing meant either burning it all down or pretending it never broke, this is your reminder. Sometimes, healing looks like both people learning a new language and deciding to speak it together, not out of obligation. Out of choice. Share this story with someone who needs to know that growth is possible, not perfect. And when you hear the bell, whether in a room or in your spirit, know that it's for you too.